Thank you for joining us at FutureMoneyTrends.com. I'm here with Andy Hoffman. He's without a doubt the top precious metal manipulation expert that I personally know. Andy Hoffman works for Miles Franklin. They're a gold and silver and other precious metal bullion dealer. You can do Canadian storage, as well as, of course, having it physically delivered to your house. Andy, thank you for joining us today.
And thanks for having me, Daniel.
Andy, I've been asking several guests recently, John Williams and James Rickards. We're really fishing for the answer on the breaking point. QE3 is just around the corner. The next president will inevitably face an official $20 trillion debt. Obviously, we know it's higher. What is the breaking point for this thing? It seems like this camel just keeps taking more straw on its back.
Well, it's funny because Bill Holter, a good friend of mine, was writing the same thing the other day, saying, how could anyone have imagined just 5 years ago, much less even 2 years ago, that we'd still be here, with the situation still had not been resolved, that Greece is still here, for instance, and that the dollar is still stable-ish, and markets have not crashed, etc. And the answer is it's just a tribute to money printing and manipulation, because as far as I'm concerned, that's the only tools left in the arsenal of the powers that be. Everything else that they do economically doesn't work. Most of the things they do now just are laughable, such as Obama with this mortgage refinancing bill, or debt ceiling talks or debt talks in Greece, which are obviously never going to happen. They're never going to come up with any kind of resolution. So it's really a matter of how long does it take before the forces of reality overtake the forces of fakeness, and it just doesn't seem to me it can be that much longer.
Andy, where do you see America in 5 years from now?
I'm not a big person for forecasts per se, especially, a year-end, what will happen this year, et cetera. But clearly you're going to have many, many, many billions, probably trillions more dollars printed in the next few years, probably, I would say, tens of trillions. So let's start with what is going to happen when all that money gets in circulation. Obviously, the cost of goods is going to go up. Certainly the cost of goods you need to live, not the things you want to live, but the things you need, and that would be real money. That would be food, energy, those kind of things. It's hard to believe that you're not going to have increased unemployment, and not the kind that's reported by the government, but the real stuff, being that the jobs are still going overseas to manufacture things, and as well as the service jobs. And I believe that you put this together, and you have to have some kind of political and social turmoil as a result. So I don't know where things will go. I know what some of the symptoms that we're going to see that are going to intensify. And the thing that I'm worried about most, as always, is the draconian actions that governments take in the face of such situations like war, the National Defense Authorization Act. And really all you can do is protect yourself from those scenarios as best you can.
Andy, a lot of people are researching waking up, the long-term unemployment. Things are not good in this country. And let me just put my deflation cap on for a minute. As you know, I do pretty much agree with 99.9% of everything that comes out of your mouth. But for the sake of research, we're looking at the Baltic Dry Index. It's collapsing. The duration of long-term unemployment is at a record. You've got a lot of credit defaults, erasing a lot of debt out there. Why aren't people who are holding cash and preparing for a deflationary event or a long-term situation of deflation because of demand destruction, because of higher oil prices, why aren't they preparing correctly? What are those guys missing?
Right. Well, first, you mentioned the Baltic rate, and actually I saw an article this morning showing how rates in many cases have now gone negative, if you can believe that. Ship owners paying customers to lease ships so that they don't have to idle them and deal with the idling costs. So it's hard to believe that we're not at just about the same level of bottom that we saw 3 or 4 years ago when we were in the middle of global meltdown 1. That's how bad the actual story is out there as far as global trade. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't see multiple articles about the contraction going on in China, which is supposedly the engine of global growth. As for why people aren't making the right decisions to prepare themselves, well, it's because they've never made the right decisions to prepare themselves throughout history. You're supposed to buy low and sell high, but reason people never make money in the stock market is because they buy high and sell low. It's a sheep instinct, and in the case of preparing yourself for these kind of scenarios, you're also fighting what the government wants you to believe. I mean, there's a reason why that they attack the gold market or prop up the Dow or tell you everything is fine, while at the same time what they're doing, such as what the Fed said the other day, is the opposite. They want you to believe that that the dollar standard that has supposedly been prosperous for all these decades is as strong as ever. And also, people don't want to believe otherwise. Again, most of the people, when we say, why aren't the people preparing? Most of the people couldn't prepare if they wanted to. There's a reason, when you have such high unemployment and low savings and losses in investments and underwater houses, most people can't do anything even if they knew what was coming next. And as a result, they're more willing to just listen to what they're told. Everything's going to be fine. We'll keep giving you entitlements, food stamps, you name it, across the board. And sadly, 95+% of the people will not be prepared for what's coming.
Now, on the political side, I know you recently met with Ron Paul. As you know, I've recently met with Ron Paul. Where do you think Ron Paul stands in this election cycle? I'm not going to make a prediction. I'm not going to ask you to make a prediction on whether he'll get the nomination or run as a third party. But all these people he's waking up, this seems like this is going to be a big problem for the establishment Republican candidate and overall for the establishment long term. What's happening with the Ron Paul, so to speak, revolution, where he's actually talking about a lot of the issues that you're concerned with, of course, which is the monetization of debt, fiat currency? What do you think is going to happen to this group of people? Are they going to eventually become a third political wing? Is this something that's going to be long term in helping us with the end game of turning this country around?
Well, again, I don't like to forecast anything. Ron Paul is clearly, I wrote a piece the other day calling him America's greatest man, because he's one of the few people out there that actually has the ability to lead and has the right ideas and could actually do some good in office. I don't think he can fix what's broken, but I think he certainly would be the perfect person to reside over replacing it with a new system. My view all along about Ron Paul is that, yeah, he's definitely waking people up in the manner that the Occupy Wall Street and those kind of movements are doing. But my guess is it's probably too late for him to make an impact in this election, and he's going to be 77 years old next year. I've always viewed his campaign as the only real chance he has of winning is if everything falls apart long before the elections, let's say this spring. And, we're talking about everything falling apart and no one trusting anything that's said anymore from government. But at the same time, you probably have some of these draconian actions. You might have military martial law, economic martial law, and there's a lot of opposition out there for him, even if he did win. It's hard to believe he can get much done. I just don't think America's ready yet to embrace someone who's going to, with his kind of ideas. Right now, they want to embrace the wrong ideas and hope that someone like Obama or Mitt Romney could just promise them to the world and somehow they'll get it. So while I hope something good happens with Ron Paul's campaign, thus far it has not been a successful one as far as getting the nomination or getting close to it. And I don't hold high hopes, although you never know what will happen later this year.
Now, you've talked about government doing extreme things, especially during a time of crisis. I know this question is probably one of the number one questions over there at Miles Franklin. In fact, GATA.org just added an entire section for this. So I wanted to get your quick thoughts. What is your answer when people are concerned about gold confiscation?
Well, look, there was, quote, gold confiscation by decree back in 1933 with FDR, but back then there was a gold standard. I mean, there was actually gold as money. Gold is not monetized right now. It's hard to see what purpose it would do. Actually, back then when they did confiscate it, they really didn't confiscate much at all. No one was turning any gold into them. The only gold that they got was gold that was taken from people's safety deposit boxes in banks, which should teach one a lesson about putting things in banks. I won't put any money in the American banking system at all, and I advise that everyone takes what they have out of it too and put it in alternative means, because you put anything in the bank, whether it's a deposit of cash or it's a gold bar and a safety deposit box, you're liable to have it taken from you. But other reasons I don't think confiscation makes any sense at all is because, first of all, there's not much gold in the hands of people in the United States. Second, it's now a global commodity. It's traded and owned mostly outside of America. And third of all, if there were any kind of decree like that, all it would do would just drive the price of gold dramatically higher and be kind of an admission that it is money and dollars are not. And that's the thing that they fear the most. So, look, I mean, nothing is certain in the world. I could certainly see them nationalizing mines far before I could see them even considering trying to take gold from people's cold dead hands. So, I got a lot of worries going forward. That's frankly not one of my top worries.
Now, when you're looking at the gold market, if you could just give us an update on where are we with the gold cartel, as Bill Murphy often states, is in a strategic retreat, but nonetheless they are retreating. Where are we with the manipulation of the precious metals? There's a lot of demand for gold and silver right now, a lot from other countries and central bankers. The money printers are buying the gold. So where are we looking at when it comes to the cartel finally being broken down?
Well, they're always in a retreat. There's nothing new about that. And yes, it is strategic because obviously if they could keep the price at nothing, they would. But it's gone from $250 up to nearly $2,000, and it's going to keep going and going, for years to come until it becomes fixed as part of a new monetary system at dramatically higher prices. Now, look, I've written about D-Day, which was November 9th, 2010, and many times before. That was when silver almost hit $30 the first time, and I first saw the cartel show fear that they were going to lose control of the game, and it was at that point that they've stepped up their methods to the point of unbelievable blatancy. That was the first they attacked back then they did the Sunday night paper silver massacre in May when it was $50 an ounce. And then what I call Operation PM Annihilation 1 and 2, the first was in September, a few hours after Labor Day weekend ended, and the second was in December, right after the ECB cut interest rates, and they put this fake headline out about central bank gold selling, which they've since denied. What we saw on Friday was a new operative, let's call it, because they've been defending this $17.50 per ounce level since September. I mean, 5 months of $17.50 every single time. And finally we broke $17.50 on Thursday. So immediately on Friday, they come up with yet another attack, including what we saw late in the afternoon on Friday. It was just unbelievable. Late, all of a sudden gold just starts tanking with nothing moving. So the fact is, as far as I see it, they know that once that $17.50 level gets broken, which has now become this huge overhead resistance, and they are scared it's going to become support, you know that a run toward those all-time highs is inevitable. And once that comes, we talked about when will the cartel break? Well, I would say that breaking out past that 1920 into the 2000 level, and also silver breaking past the massive triple top at $50 that's been going on for 30-plus years. You put those two events together, and you're talking about some serious damage to the cartel. And I believe that it's inevitable that this occurs. Could happen later this year. In fact, I'd say there's a pretty strong possibility it happens later this year. And so just keep watching that $17.50 level because they are fighting it to the death right now.
Andy, if someone would like to get a hold of you or purchase some metal through Miles Franklin, what's the best way to go about doing that?
Just go to milesfranklin.com at the contact section. My email and phone number's there, as are all the principals and brokers.
And you have an excellent newsletter that I think everybody needs to subscribe to. You not only do you get news and updates, you also get kind of like a collage of what all the smart people out there are saying. To subscribe to that, just at the front page of your website, correct?
Right. We do 2 newsletters a day for free. My piece, and also David Schechtman does one. He's the founder of the firm. And yes, front page, you'll see a box that says put your email to subscribe, and they're both completely free.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Before you started working for them, I was not aware of Miles Franklin. So I'm very glad I'm subscribed to that newsletter. About you guys in GATA are about the ones that I always make sure that I always open up.
Well, I appreciate that. We both are in the business of helping protect people through our writings, through these kind of podcasts, which I appreciate that you help us with.
All right, Andy, thanks so much for your time. You have a good day.
You too.